Hi, and welcome to Higher Hertz. I'm Justin Leopard, your cello teacher online, and today we're going to talk deeper about how to sit with your cello, how to hold the cello. We talked about this in our introductory lesson, which I highly recommend you watch to give a broad overview of everything that we're going to be doing as we learn cello. But today I want to go deeper into how to hold the cello, and especially because everybody has a different body, it can be a little bit different for different people. So, step one is making sure you have the end pin at the right length. So in order to have the end pin at the right length, you have to know what the cello needs to feel like against your body. So it does help to have another person for this, but it's possible to figure it out on your own. If the cello is starting from not having the end pin out at all, you know that you're going to want to have the cello at about a 30-degree angle, right? So kind of like this. You don't want it to be too low because your bow is going to hit your knees, and that doesn't give you as much leverage with the bow because you have to put the bow more into yourself as opposed to down. You also don't necessarily want the cello further out, although some cellists do use curved end pins to achieve this because it's a little bit easier to play, although it's a little bit harder plausibly to project. So you're going to want something in between where the bottom of the sides of the cello, also known as the bout, comes into contact with your knees. Comes into contact with your knees about 4 inches in, 5 inches in. It depends on your knee, but you want to be able to feel it in it's kind of a crook in your knee. The second contact point, or the third, depending on how you look at the three, is where the top of the cello is, or the top of the body of the cello at least, is going to hit. And you want it to hit in the middle of your sternum. So this is my solar plex, and this is the bottom of my collarbone. And it's probably closer to my solar plex. If it's too high, it's hard to reach up here as much, although it is a little bit more intimate. And I do know some cellists who, when they started younger on larger instruments, end up playing a little bit more like this. Some of them are phenomenal, so it can be done. But typically you're going to want it a little lower. And again, not so low that it's, again, just a little difficult to play. You want to find that happy medium. So if you first get the cello out and you try to figure out perhaps those contact points just based off what I said, start forming the muscle memory now, even though at first you'll have to be exact about the placement. Again, closer to the solar plex, but not on the solar plex, inside the crook of the knee on each side. You want to be able to control the cello a little bit with your knees, but obviously we don't support the cello with our knees, at least anymore, not for hundreds of years. We have an end pin now. So at this point, you're going to want to remember this. And if you have somebody else, they can just open up the end pin, unscrew the end pin, and it'll drop out at the right length. But you're also going to want to develop some sort of mental memory for how long the end pin is supposed to be anyway, so it's helpful. For example, I brought it out to the right length on my first try. But if it were wrong, you just have to adjust it. And I think it's important because if your setup is wrong, it's really going to make everything else that you're doing that much more difficult. Not very fun. Some things to keep in mind as you're trying to develop your cello posture is that the other absolutely crucial thing about cello posture is that it's actually cello posture. It's not slouching and then holding the cello at these points, right? What we want to do, and if you watch the first video I talk about, you want to be able to have the same upper body structure that you have when you're standing. So if I'm standing and then I just bend my legs and I'm still supporting my body, that's going to be the right posture. So the things you want to keep in mind are flat feet help you do this. Rolling your hips forward a little bit helps you do this. You can feel like your body sits on top of your waist. Another useful thing, this is from yoga, is to imagine a very thin hole going through all of your body, and you want to be able to shine a light through that hole, and it would go all the way down. So everything is aligned from your neck down, and you want to be as symmetrical as possible. But now, it might sound a little bit, frilly to speak this way, but truly, you're going to spend hours on this instrument. Playing injuries are a real risk. Like serious injuries are actually a real risk. So you want to have good posture. If your lower back is tight, oh man, you're going to have problems real quick. If your arms are too tight, oh man, you're going to have problems really quickly. And that's ultimately the problem with slouching, is that with your slouching, you have to compensate for the lack of just natural torque and power that you can put into the strings by using your muscles in ways that are going to not just tire them, but actually hurt them in the long run. So it's important to, after you've kind of gotten yourself settled with the cello, just get comfortable with the posture. Be able to feel free to move around, not rigid, but free to move around, and see how the cello can move a little bit with me. I can even push it a little bit. I could even rotate it a little bit if I wanted to rotate it up. These subtle movements are things that you probably won't think about consciously very much, but they will intuitively come into play as you're playing, and this is what will give you the freedom to really move around the whole cello. So a couple of things that come to mind. If you're particularly tall, like I am, it helps to have a longer end pin, and these can be hard to find. This steel one that I have, I bought specifically because it was like the longest end pin I could find back in the day. I have a couple other end pins I use now, but this one I bought for tall. The problems with being tall are typically going to be that you're sitting on chairs that are too short, and it's hard to have a proper posture where your hips are about, a few inches above your knees. So that's the ideal height for a chair for you. You don't want to sit in a chair where your legs are actually flat. You want them to be forward a little bit because this is going to bring your body into the cello. You need to be able to provide a strong structure that the cello leans against, and you kind of pull the cello into yourself as you project the sound out. And it's a very beautiful dance between you and the instrument. So you want to find the right height of chair. And if you're too short, of course, this can also be a problem because you don't want to feel like you're sitting on a stool to play the cello. That's really not going to be that helpful either. You want to be able to find the right height of chair. Now, another factor that can come into play is specifically for women. Women can have slightly different body types that often get in the way of the cello sitting comfortably on the chest. So sometimes what these people will do is they'll actually hold the cello a little bit higher, but with a shorter end pin, and this allows them to at least get around the cello. And I've known some cellists who can play absolutely beautifully with all types of bodies. So it's possible, but if it seems unnatural or uncomfortable at first, go with the hierarchy. You have to have good posture. You have to have the right height of chair. The cello has to be making contact with the right points of your body at the right angle. But after that, you can adapt. You can adapt to make it work for your body. Because after all, what you're going to want to be able to do is have a nice structure. You're going to be able to want to lift your arms up, have them be mostly relaxed, and then be able to give to the instrument everything that's going to be able to receive the music that you want from it. So I hope that this was a little bit more of an in-depth tutorial on how to sit with the cello, how to hold the cello. I hope you guys are having a nice time on your cello journey so far. We're going to be making lots more cello lesson videos, so I hope you guys stick around. Stay subscribed to Higher Hertz below. Once again, I'm Justin Leopard, and you can find me as the Vagabond Cellist on Instagram and YouTube. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys next time.